We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
Join Mark and Don for Weapons Wednesday, where you'll learn how to use everything from your bare hands to your average AR-15.
The 12 gauge autoloader.
Sure.
The 45 long slide.
Yep.
With laser sighting.
You betcha.
The Uzi 9mm.
Yes, sir.
Phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range.
What are you, crazy?
Wrong.
Okay. We'll talk about that too. So whatever question you have about whatever weapon you have, call Mark and Don on Weapons Wednesday. And remember, your mind is your first best weapon.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you to always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm, and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors, so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores, and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you will fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear, be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand. Defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. Pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you. God bless this republic.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Quirky. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines, in occupied territories, southwest, east, northeast, and south. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, IndianaFreedomTalkRadio.com in memoriam. We miss you, Spike. And we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in lower 49, including the great state of Jefferson, along with CONUS, the outlying two states, the territories, and the clock. 5:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Where we're sitting, we're dry, but just to the west, just to the east, just to the south, and a little bit to the north, they just got downpour. How do I know this? We drove through it, that's why. But right here where we are, just jump right over the area here. Typical for the weather when we get these really big storms. That's why it was so fascinating when we got hit with those tornadoes here several years back, because we don't get hit with that kind of stuff. But it happens when it's weather control. Did I say that? Anyway, it is a typical summer day. It's been damp, muggy, warm, great summer day. Get to the lake, jump in the pool, get down there to the river. It's only back here behind the property. And enjoy the water. It's summertime. It is 5:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Weapons Wednesday. And, of course, it is the 8th of July. There's nothing important really about that, except it is Weapons Wednesday. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K, 2020 Old Earth Calendar, 2020, the Dance of Swords, conflict begins. Good. What, I'm supposed to be upset about it? Can't do anything. They're going to try and push the envelope and attack us. That kicks off. We're going after them tooth and nail, and we know we're going after the problem. Back there behind the curtain, not their organic sandbags up front. We can shoot them anytime. Well, there's a pecking order. We'll talk more about that in a bit, but only because certain ones can hide. Others don't have brains enough to figure out how to, and they're easy to pick out. So it won't be difficult. Anyway, it's Weapons Wednesday, and right now, for instance, JG sales, I know a lot of people have asked about 55 grain FMJ, boat tail, Sierra boat tail. There is a shortage across the system for 62 grain or 55 grain. Doesn't mean it's what it is. Prices are up and down. This is not the cheapest price. In fact, this is back up to when we saw the other shortage price. But Max Tech, Taiwan, 55 grain FMJ BT ammo. Brass case, I would assume boxer primed, non-corrosive, made in Taiwan. Instead of communist China, this is made nationalist China. It's $500. I'm going to throw the dime in there. It's $599.99 for a case. Well, that sounds like, well, forgive me, $499. I better not said 5 there. $499.90. I'll throw a dime. Ching. There we go. Threw the dime in there. It's $500. But they do have it. It's in stock. And it's Taiwanese 55 grain. I would wouldn't even think twice about using it. It's basically a NATO standard production operation. The Taiwanese do good work. We don't see as much of their ammo. Somebody obviously turned to them for interest and supply because of shortage. And the Taiwanese ammunition, MaxTech, MaxTech, and that's over at jgsales.com, jgsales.com, jgsales.com. That's jgsales.com. They got a lot of other items there, but that jumped out at me because I keep getting these emails, where can we find ammo? Don't forget to check all the odd corners, because there is some ammunition laying around here and there, especially for stuff that's unique. But in this case, 5.56 standard. Hell, Federal Mark 318 OTM is, 20-round box, 62 grain SOST barrier ammo. $20 for 20 rounds, $1 a round. So that makes 50 cents a round not seem so bad. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, as far as other ammunition goes, it's catch as catch can. Whatever you find, congratulations, shake your hand, double plus good, keep up the work, whatever you find, run with it. Whatever you consider affordable and reasonable, price-wise. Now there is, I'll give you an example, some 7.62 by 39 Wolf ammunition, ball, 1,000 rounds of FMJ for $300. Again, $299.90. I'll throw that dime in there again. $300 for 1,000 rounds. Steel case, Russian ammunition, Wolf. Good stuff, works, especially on your AKs. So if you've got something like an SKS or an AK and you didn't get enough ammo, there you go. There's another solution. jgsales.com. jgsales.com. Now, a couple of questions or a couple of things people ask. Well, since we may or may not find an AR-15, you're not going to find it for the price you would have, say, 6 months ago or 10 months ago or a year ago, but that's an I told you so. I told you so. We told you so. It's what we kept pointing people towards, reasonably priced small arms so that you could pick up what you needed for everyone. Now you're looking at less money available in wallet because of the COVID, national depression that they're trying to hide with the, coronavirus. And money's not there, or money is progressively drying up. But in the same vein, people have an interest in particularly firearms. So the prices have also gone way up from what they were, and they're staying there. They're not going anywhere other than plateauing. Maybe this may be the high water point. It may not. There's still plenty of room for jacking the price. In fact, they can go wherever they want with it. And the more restrictions they apply, the less ammunition available, and more likely everybody is going to be asking more for what they do have in stock, okay? Now, this is where we get into a road split, because there's a lot of automatics that are actually pretty decent little foreign import military types that you can pick up. The price is not what it used to be. Under $100 to get you a really nice semi-automatic pistol with a caliber that you could buy 1,000 rounds for a nickel a round or 4 cents a round. Those days are long gone now. But if I were looking at certain weapons, depending on what I was planning on doing, let's say that you're going in and you're going to be whacking bad guys randomly behind the curtain. Let's say you're going to go and 11 o'clock at night, they're getting out of the car, pop, 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 or 2 o'clock in the morning, they're maybe out back and thinking they're going to shut down the pool and pop, 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 pop. You don't want to leave brass laying around. So this is where revolvers are awfully handy for unique behind the curtain, the bump behind the curtain ring knocker. When the time comes, you want to deal with the problem quick and hard and fast and out of there. But you also don't want to have to be picking up chiclets. Now, a consideration why double-barrel shotguns are always so popular, or used to be, for kneecapping and things of that nature. Let's remember that a double-barrel shotgun retains its rounds. The revolver retains its rounds. It's an empty case. You drop and control all of your brass, and you can also load all of your ammunition so that it can be quite unique, both with shotgun and with whatever handgun you choose in terms of revolvers. But again, don't worry so much about Dirty Harry as accuracy. You can press the envelope a little bit. You can push up the energy a little bit More important, you stay on target, and you put a good solid bite/hit on the target. Repeat. Remember, over and over and over and over and over again. Consistency counts. Hits count, misses don't. With revolvers, I don't know. There were a couple of decent buys. It looks like the Small Arms Treaty has blocked most any of the Filipino revolvers, for instance, the ones that were made for Rock Island and a couple of the other companies. They were under $200 a piece. They were brand new, service frame, K-frame revolvers. Nothing to write home about, but a very straightforward police issue / service issue pistol. And for personal defense, perfect. It looks like they really hammered on the batch of short barrels. They've chopped the snot out of those. Those are actually out in parts kits now without the barrels. Also, of course, at JG Sales, they've got the round butt K-frame Smith & Wesson Model 10s for $150 a piece, no barrel. But barrels are out there. In fact, since you're going to do that, you might as well buy a random number of different barrels, and that way when you use them for behind-the-curtain bump shooting, you can pop the barrel, take a torch to it, melt it flat. Don't throw it away or do anything. No, just flat out, just virtually eradicate it. Okay, I mean, a puddle of metal. Little spitzels of gray, gunmetal blue oxide laying around in the shop in a pile over in the scrap bin. In fact, for that matter, then you walk it out to the river and throw it away. And if somebody's really that ambitious to find it, it won't do them a damn bit of good anyway. Okay? Now, that's just also true with you guys with automatics. Let me point something out. A lot of you guys are going to run into the Ubangi / Knuckle Dragus Maximus attacking you in groups, and at some point somebody's going to be deciding to put bullets on target, which I'm sure has happened down in Atlanta quite a bit and they're not talking about. We're talking about the shootings where they thought they were going to come up to a car or beat on a guy in his yard, like in his backyard or whatever, and he pulls a gun. Maybe he's not in his backyard. This would be best situation, because what's going to happen next is, you gun down every last one of the assailants, kill every last one of them, make sure there's no conversation but only one side, and then you pull the barrel on your automatic, make sure you police your brass if you can, police all that you can, as quickly as you can, and in the process, that barrel gets torched. But the important thing is to have another barrel on hand. Now, before you do this, how about if you're going to be carrying a defense gun, buy that second or third barrel and save back your patent serial numbered barrel that's already set up to the frame that you have. Save that. Pop that, drop it, put it off to the side. Get one of these aftermarket barrels. Make sure the gun works. If you have to defend yourself and dump a couple of mags on Ubangi Maximus, the advantage is no way to tell where it went with, because it's going to be gone. Now, this also requires discipline, wiping down all of your cartridges when you're loading up magazines, making sure that everything is clean front and back. Don't just push around in. Don't touch the base of it. Wearing a set of heavy gauge rubber gloves would be a real good idea. Yeah, hint, hint, hint. Or leather, thin leather gloves. No fingerprints, but also wipe the rounds down, wipe the magazine down even. Make sure if you're going to use mags, wipe the mag down. If it's going to be in the gun, wipe it down before it goes in completely, front, side, bottom. Then insert it. Why? Well, if you do drop it, you're not going to be offering any information if the magazine accidentally gets dropped. Now, I do recommend you wear shooting gloves, but you don't always get a chance to do that because of all the different ways you can get into a situation where you really weren't ready for it, which happens a lot. If you do have to dump a bunch of rounds, you don't stick around. It's kind of like, in fact, the truck drivers are already being coached by their companies, bump and run. If they start running out in the road in front of you, if you feel you need to slow down, go ahead, but don't stop, and don't slow down too much, because they'll grab you, drag you out, and kill you. So they don't want their truck damaged. They don't want you gone. They want the load to go where it's supposed to go. So the policy, pretty much a lot of the companies right now, is squash and run. And down the road, if you feel wherever you feel is necessary to stop, you can let the police know about what happened after the fact, but you don't stick around in the kill zone. You just end up dead. Well, I think the same is pretty well true with a lot of the incidents that have already taken place, but people are not thinking ahead. And again, if you're going to use a semi-automatic pistol, again, like I told you, wipe down all the cartridges going into the mag, make sure the magazine is wiped down completely. When you do insert it in the magazine, well, use gloves. That way there's no prints or anything on that. If you drop and lose a magazine, guess what? It offers no information. Certainly it'll tell them what kind of weapon, because your magazines are, weapon specific. But that's about it. And again, they already know the caliber they're going to be pulling bullets out of, or trying to find the bullets that were used to put down the attackers and that did put down the attackers. So plan ahead. Take out that serial number barrel, put that off to the side. Use your aftermarket barrels or your replacement barrels that are mismatched from the spare parts inventory. And when you do have to drop that barrel, you put your regular serial number barrel back in, totally different from the one that you had that's kind of worn and tired, and rifling's a little different, and everything's appropriate. But you need to think about that in advance. Don't wait till after the fact. You don't want to take and pull that nice barrel that you do have that's factory and, have to pull it and shred it and tear it and burn it, only because from the excuse factor, remember, the barrel matches, the serial number matches, the frame, and, obviously this gun wasn't used for, or this barrel wasn't used for any evil, horrible, terrible defensive crime by, against the communists. See how that works? And again, shotguns are the same way. They're very, let's say, nondescript, which is another reason they're not a bad idea. But if you're going to be loading up shotgun shells into a shotgun, I would also recommend you wipe everything down, and you better be religious about it. You better get religiosity when it comes to maintenance and control of your weapons, and specifically in this environment, okay, where you plan on not sticking around to have a conversation with anybody, because all they'll do is crucify you for trying to save your own life. Might as well walk away very quietly in the darkness, just like the bad guys do. Now, another thing, somebody just mentioned, well, what about like high points and such? Certain guns have a different barrel system. You can get spare barrels. By the way, high points are creeping up in price again, too. Yes, I know that. I saw that. What used to be a $109 or $119 gun is now a $189.95 gun. And that's for a C9, okay? Now, before you poo-poo the high power, how many guns do you have laying around the house? And please don't give me the BS, I only need one gun. Well, that's kind of panty waste. I mean, this is America. You can own as many guns as you want. Why do you only have one gun? That's kind of stupid. I mean, granted, maybe because you only afford one gun. If that's what you're saying, that's cool. But if you're going to try and tell me, I only have one gun as a kind of a show-off thing, it's like, obviously you're a little anemic in the firearms purchasing area. You need to practice. Now, the high points are in the semi-automatic guns are great, especially as cash guns, but also stash guns around the defense perimeter. How many can you afford, as opposed to, say, how many HKs or how many, Glocks, or how many? Go right down the shopping list of the, upper end weapons that are out there. Okay, kind of pricey. Okay, so here again, if you get a chance and you take a look. Oh, as a matter of fact, thank you. Arms Corps. That is one of the other companies. Who was that? Brett, thank you very much. You did jog my memory on that. Arms Corps, but nobody's bringing in any Arms Corps revolvers. All the companies that normally had them, something has happened with the small arms trade agreement, and the Asian, far Western Asian countries are the ones who are supplying all of these, interesting, conventional, and very practical arms, and you'll notice they've dropped off the market. So, and there's nothing really comparable that is there. That's why I'm going down the list. It's like, you can go to the cop trade-in guns, needless to say. But the most important thing is how many. I want to have a bunch of weapons laying around. It used to be it'd be cheap revolvers. There really isn't anything that fits that niche anymore. Not in surplus either. There's no surplus guns laying around that are in any good quantity, and they're also not in any great price. So the biggest problem you got is kind of balancing it out. And like I said, you go back to high points. At least you can find them. There's magazines for them. They have a lifetime warranty. Long as the country survives, in theory, they'll keep replacing them for you. Now, somebody's mentioning, well, what about, like you mentioned, Browning high powers. Well, yeah, I love Browning high powers. Used to be, that was one of the go-for 9mm guns because it was the only thing that had a stacked magazine. Pretty much that's all gone. And if the ones that are out there are just so outrageously priced, I mean, hell, again, it's like you're buying a brand new HK. So there's where the used to be, it was a go-to solution. Not so much anymore. And as far as cash pistols, I would also recommend blades. Machetes are cheap, sharpened steel. You can make your own if you want, or you can go to like Harbor Freight and get for $5 a piece all day, and sometimes with a discount below $5. They're inexpensive, rubber grip, brush hog machetes. A little short sword will take, and as long as you're just ruthless, will take, and do short work of somebody. Just like my favorite, which is the tomahawk / drywall hammer. It's a combination war mallet, and the pitch of the blade is perfect for cleaving on a person. Just perfect. It's a tomahawk cutting edge. It's a talon edge. So it works really, really well. I love the Estwing. I've got 2 of those in different places. And needless to say, a whole bunch of the cheapy wooden ones that were oak handle made in China. I got those all over the place, and they're ready to roll. So short swords, got to admit that too. Got quite a few short swords. And what do I mean by that? By the way, I haven't really mentioned those, and I noticed that this year I haven't seen as much of the product come out. But, for a few years back, we had Estwing doing battle axes. Where'd those go? Do you remember? I mean, they sold too. I was down in Texas at one of the Home Despots, and they brought in like 20 of these Estwing battle axes. Beautiful weapons. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And you know what? Next day came in, they're all gone. As soon as they put another batch on the shelf, and it was about another 4 days, almost before I had to get back up north here, lo and behold, they got another 20. And even as I was standing there were people grabbing them and walking away with 1 or 2 of them while I was looking at one I had in my hand. And again, the price was reasonable. Where'd those go? Now, the reason I bring this up is because Stanley last year, I think I got about 4 of them, had a brush machete. You know what it looked like? Basically a gladius. It's a Roman-esque, I won't say Roman, but a Romanesque style, quote-unquote machete. It's a short sword. It's a beautiful short sword. In fact, I keep them cached in 2 or 3 locations where the scabbard is already secured, so all I got to do is grab the handle, pull it out, and I keep swinging and beating and chopping on you until you're dead. But the price was right. They were knocked down. The price was first up around $20, which wasn't bad, but we ended up with the discounts and everything down to $12 a unit with a nylon sheath that was padded, well built, actually holds up quite nicely, the one that's actually on some gear. The blade itself is stainless and has a good chisel / almost like a Tonto blade on the end, but a serrated back, not a saw back, but a serrated back, like a shark tooth back. Now, there's a couple models of these. The only thing is that some of them came with black with yellow impress rubber grips, black with a little bit of yellow trim. Stanley, that's why, Stanley colors. And they were smattered around last year. This year, not seeing any. Now, maybe you've got some, and there are typical garden supplies where about 2 or 3 different classic machete designs are available, so that's still an option. And again, that's the first choice because they're cheap. You can put a lot of them in different places. Handguns are a lot nicer because they bark like a dog, give people warning, and in the process start putting bullets across the room so you don't have to dance across or try to get close enough to put a cleave on them with that battle axe or broadsword. I don't want to throw a blade. I never throw a blade. I won't. I'm sorry. If my enemy doesn't have one, I don't want to throw something at them. I'm good, and I got a good arm too, but I'm not going to give my enemy a blade when so far he's been caught unaware or by surprise because he probably figured I wasn't paying attention, and out of the corner of my eyes I realized he was there. That first stroke just stuck right in someplace, and I pulled it, crossed it through the rest of the way, and immediately turned the blade back around and keep thud, 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 until there's nothing to thud anymore. And by the way, he might have another weapon on him. Look to see if you can't get to one of your handguns or rifles or shotguns right away, and you've got the battle axe or broadsword there, or whatever version, machete, butter knife with a rubber band grip. Whatever you used, Well, now you might have whatever he's got. Oh, look, he was carrying a weapon. Oh, yeah, it's kind of twitching still, but hey, it's got a silencer on it. He must have been coming to assassinate me. That's cool. I wonder if he has friends. Let's see if we can make it look like. Now, we won't let his body ever be found. We'll take his hands and put him in a Ziploc bag and keep him in a cooler. We'll make his body disappear, kill his buddies, and leave lots of fingerprints all over everything when we're done with his hands. And they can follow him and blame him because he must have flipped sides. Leave the rest of the bodies somewhere else, though. Not messing up your yard or anything. I mean, please, if you can help it. Hunt them harder than they are hunting you, or think they're hunting you. That should be your first rule. We got a caller. Who do we have?
Tom, hey, why don't we just hang the body up someplace?
No. One or two of them just need to disappear, but their fingerprints will show up in many other scenes where other bumps behind the curtain die. See how that works? Now the other bodies. I mean, but still, there again, it's better still if you send them to the catfish farm. There's other things that need to eat.
We can send them back. Or we can send them back to sender with a warning not to come back.
No. I want more of them to come out. Remember, let nothing but a rumor of their destruction return to where they came from. Yeah, there's a reason for this. You don't want them to figure out in any way, shape, or form. This is obviously why we don't leave any survivors. You don't leave any survivors because if you defeat your enemy, you don't want the survivors to tell your enemy what they messed up in, how they screwed up, and how they lost, right? You also don't want to even let them know, well, what was the end result? What happened? If you make all of them absolutely disappear, except for a few that are going to keep coming back, killing other people on the other side, and their fingerprints will be found everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but, it'll be like, oh, they boo-booed. They made a mistake because, the government's always looking for fingerprints. Well, you give them the fingerprints of the person you don't like. Of course, he's not with us anymore either. So just a little heads up. Again, hunt them harder.
Or you could stick their middle fingers up and give everyone the middle finger.
Well, you could use that one, but it's going to be obvious after a while. Not many people do that. They don't even pick their nose with their middle finger. I mean, it's kind of big. You know what I mean? Although it is used for a lot of other applications. But that would be an option. Anyway, as long as... forgive me, before we go, Tom, anything else, please? Go ahead.
Oh, no, just wanted to say that. But it is hot up here. It did get up to 101 earlier today. Now it's back down to 97, so it dropped 4 degrees.
Well, you should have rain headed your way because it's going north. Now, it doesn't mean it'll make it, but we just had torrents coming down here just a little bit ago. And
we need rain. The fire danger is really high up here.
But here's what's cute. It was left in east and west and north and south, but not right here. We didn't get rain right here. So we got the same temperatures, about pretty close to 100, and it's continuing to hover right around there in the 90s. So classic Michigan weather. Of course, it was over 110 degrees out west in the Dakotas. Like I said, that bubble was headed our way, and it's gotten to us now. But this is the 8th of July, and guys, this is the kind of weather we have in Michigan. The only thing that's not as bad, although it's still out there, are the bug-skeetos, okay, the big mosquitoes, the big mosquitoes. Michigan used to be... carriers. Yeah, well, Michigan used to be known as the land of the mosquito. That's what the natives used to call the Great Lakes, the land of the mosquito. Why? Yeah, because
they're the biggest aircraft carriers up in Michigan.
Yeah, why was that? You see, well, that's the whole point. We had lots of water, and there were anything that they could get hold of, which is mostly people. Trust me, they ate, and they sucked off, and they still try to. In fact, on that note, I can't emphasize enough bug nets. Of course, now they're pricey. If you bought them in the middle of winter, you could get them for almost free. I've warned everybody about this. You buy your summer stuff in the winter. You buy your winter stuff in the summer. Now's the time to start buying that winter gear before the first cool wind blowing from the north hits.
Somebody else. Don't you know COVID killed all the mosquitoes and stuff?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Of course, now everybody's having this conversation that nobody's going to listen to the communists when they try to shut down the country, the state here again. And the same is true for a whole bunch of other locations. Everybody's pretty well fed up and had enough. I think they're not going to be in very good shape if they try to proceed with what they did before. So we'll put the kibosh to that, I think, this time. But you know what? I'm going to say something. We never changed our activities. And, I will say that, guys, if they put the coronavirus back in place and all the neurotic hypochondriacs with paranoid tendencies go back to groveling in their hovel, that was the best driving time I've had in years. I especially like driving late at night. And, guys, after 9 o'clock, nobody was on the road. It was just the most wonderful driving. You could stop a car, hear a pin drop. You could hear any car on the road because there were only maybe 1, 2, or 3 cars out there. And so you could hear a car on the other side of the county a couple months ago. I brought this up on the air. It's kind of neat. It's like it used to be. You could stop a car and listen, and you didn't have to chase somebody. You could chase them by ear. Well, with everybody groveling in their hovel and hiding like the idiot peasants that most Americans have become, as spineless curs and idiot peasants, it made for really a great environment for all of us who are free. So I can't complain about that part of it. I wish that most of these idiots would get back off the road, go hide, die of whatever horrible, terrible, lonely, panic over in the corner, while they're drinking their broccoli shake and wishing they were an Oscar Mayer wiener. They can sing that song and wear the kimono. It's like in Demolition Man. And we'll go about being free and alive, and we'll see who works it out in the long run. I think we'll be doing better. I know something else here for Susan. Yes, Susan, I know. Somebody just went to JG Sales. They're sold out of everything. And it's like, well, not everything, but normally JG Sales would have like, three pages or like 100 1911 type frames, be it Rock Island, Ruger, Colt, whatever. Well, they do have a mix, but they're all the guns that are like 1,800. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Here's one for you. Rose Gold Mexican Heritage Semi-Auto Pistol 38 Super, not even in 45. Only $3,495 for a 1911. Well, hold on. I'll go right down the short. Oh, my God. Okay. They do have a couple of Browning, 1911. Oh, that's a 22 semi-auto for almost $500. $16,000, $3,000, $6,000, $3,000, $3,400, $3,500, $1,800, $1,800, $1,800. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on here. Oh, no. It's a Rock Island 1911 Baby Rock 380 Auto. Only $380. And then a Ruger SR 1911. Only $650. And a Springfield Armory standard gun, 4-inch barrel, though. $950. So, in other words, only the very, 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 very expensive 1911s are left, and everything else is gone, okay? Now, going through all the others, like if you go through every category, and I did this before the program, but I understand what our listener, what our lady friend just said. Guys, when you go right down subject for subject, it's all products in this category are out of stock. And that's repeat. Charter Arms, Chiappa. Wait a minute, they got one. A Buntline. There you go. A 12-inch Buntline Revolver in 22. It's only $254, which isn't really bad for that gun. Of course, it's a neat little, 22 hand cannon. So, and you can reach out with that 12-inch barrel, really, seriously. And again, it's only a 22. But it's better than harsh language. When you're done, you still can beat them with the gun. Might bend the barrel, though. Watch, it's only a 22. Not likely, but it could happen. You get rambunctious and all excitable, and next thing you know, well, that's all she wrote. Yeah, I know. You do have one Desert Eagle knockoff for only $2,000. That's it. There's just a handful. In fact, there are some. Now, I would point this out, and in fact, I was curious about this because we were talking about the Canik guns. Turkey, of course, brings in, those are Turkish firearms for the Turkish secret police. There are some. There's a few. Now, a lot of the other guns, I've had a lot of people asking about Rossi's. Okay, and I know a lot of you bought the 5-shot J-frame stainless 3-inch Rossi. It's a beautiful gun. I wish I could find about a dozen of them. Seriously. It's a beautiful firearm. Love it. Why? It's the perfect combination of barrel length, size. Ladies love them. Kids can handle them. They're a great gun and easily a manhandler. For a guy, it's like firing a 22. In 38 Special, the Rossi J-frame 5-shot 3-inch barrel, bull barrel, as a matter of fact. Now, if you have that gun, which is why somebody was asking if they could find more, the one company that has speed loaders, my favorite, the HSK speed loaders in good quantity, is this company, JG Sales. It is Weapons Wednesday. We're always looking for solutions. If you're going to use the Revolver for an carpet bump, rug bump shooter for the characters behind the scenes, the ones that need to be dead right off the bat, like, the people in the news media. The ones that are lying to the microphone. A lot of people are tired and fed up with them. Somebody's going to decide to get rid of the problem. Well, you're going to be able to need to reload fast, and speed loaders are really great for that. Okay? So a J-frame, K-frame, N-frame, doesn't matter what it is, L-frame. How many remember the L-frames? Those things came out and kind of disappeared. There's a reason. They had some problems. Gun works, and there's still a bunch of them in the inventory, but they're all secondary. They're second line now. All those speed loaders are available at J&G Sales, and they're in good quantity, so you can buy more than a couple for your gun, which you should. A lot of you, since you're seeing what's happening with your, handgun availability, if you only have so many handguns right now, let me recommend something. At least go out and start just buying the hell out of the mags. You should have 6 mags and one up the magazine well for each gun you have. I like that somebody's finally caught on that for every mile they're away from the house, they're carrying 1 or 2 magazines now more. Each mile they carry another mag. Under the logic, if they have to get home, they're going to have to use that many more mags to fight their way home, okay, which for me personally, remember we've said about evacuation. Head for the hills. Don't fight your way back through town. Work your way out, exfiltrate out with minimal conflict, and have all other family members do the same thing, okay? Yeah, I know. Every one of the companies is in the same boat. The available number of firearms that we're seeing is about 1/5 of what you saw a month and a half, 2 months ago. 1/5. And that's consistent. Now, some companies I really like. JG doesn't take the stuff off the inventory. You got to go to each one of the manufacturers and go, okay, are there any high standards? Yep, there's one. It's only $500 for a 22, 5.5, a Citation series, which is actually a good competition pistol. Citation was the option over the high standard was the option over the Smith & Wesson Model 41, which I used in competition, long barrel. Love the gun. I know it was destroyed by Clinton. It was cut up because I heard that a bunch of those guns were absolutely destroyed, and these were classic Smiths that were pristine. I think I was the 3rd competition shooter to use the gun when I pulled it out of the arsenal, and it was the quality of the work. I was a Smith & Wesson distributor, and having looked at the quality of this gun, it was probably the 1st or 2nd production run, plus it was a custom gun built for the government by Smith & Wesson's Custom House. And the weapon had every bell and whistle on it, but it was just so perfect for me. It just dropped, the barrel and the sights dropped right into my physical structure, and 5 rounds tech drive every time. Boom, 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 boom. And wow, all done. Everything inside a dime, or less, typically less. But again, the high standard, Supermatic series, the 105, 107, actually I think the 101, the 101 or 100 series Citation, predating this, was probably the most common, but the 107 Citation is the one I'm looking at, and they want, 520, that's not bad. Again, it makes a good sentry or, behind the curtain bump execution gun for getting rid of problems quietly. And remember, you can use individual rounds like CB caps. Just put the bullet in the right place, and the rug bump drops, and you don't have that Wizard of Oz problem anymore. Yeah, he's the great and powerful. There we go. Not so great and powerful anymore. And one less carpet bump to worry about. So anyway, another thing, that's jngsales.com, jgsales.com. That's the one that has the Taiwanese 55 grain projectile / ammunition. It is not cheap. In fact, it's what we warned you about with regard to availability. But you don't see much of this MaxTech Taiwan around. Okay, Taiwanese manufactured ammo around. It's military grade. It's like the Korean stuff. We should see more. We're not. Taiwan was supposedly an ally, at least supposedly. So that's another solution. And yes, one more time, Smith & Wesson Model 10 revolver, 38 special, no barrel, round butt, GSS, CAI marked. It was imported by Century Arms International, old CIA. Use Smith & Wesson. There are barrels available for anywhere from $32 all the way up to $70 or $80. And in fact, the little stubby that goes on this is ridiculously priced. I wouldn't even bother with it. I would go with a 4, 5, or 6 inch barrel, whatever's cheapest, and buy 2 or 3 because they're cheap. And I might buy more than one of those frames. And since it's a Series 7 gun, 7 variation, this is a really cool solution for a lot of you guys looking for an extra set of hand cannons to stash or one to use for carpet bumps and rug bumps and, behind-the-scene bumps. So when it's done, take the barrel off, put another barrel on to other projects, and out with the torch. There we go. So, another thing here real quick. I want to address, we were talking about medical. There is no such thing as obsolete medical operations. Does everybody understand that? It's like saying that some idiot stick said, well, the bandoliers and strippers are obsolete because we got bandolier mags, for magazines. Now it's like, okay, idiot stick, here's how that works. If I throw you ammunition with a bandolier in it, do you know how to use it? A bandolier of, say, stripper clipped ammo? Did it go bad all of a sudden? How is it obsolete, idiot stick? When you hear the word used, obsolete, it's like one person. I like the guy that did the meme where it's got the, remember the Princess Bride with the swordsman? I do not think you understand truly what that word means, or you would not be using it so much. There is no such thing as, in fact, for the last 100 years now, guys, 100 years puts you in 1920. There are no obsolete guns between 1920 and the year 2020. There isn't a weapon that was made in 1920 that won't kill you dead right now. So how is it obsolete? Now, granted, there's some really orphan, designs, but if they were built with the intent of doing what they're doing, I guarantee when you put a round in there, as long as you do basic maintenance, prep the gun up, know what you're doing, right ammunition, when you load it up and pull the trigger, you will be just as, in fact, you'll be more dead, because most of the junk they're making now, as far as I'm concerned, number one, isn't going to have the durability, and in most cases is in some goofy, off-the-wall configuration now that doesn't apply to most of what can be done if you know how to use the bigger, heavier, superior ranged weapons and apply them properly. After all, we're not barefoot or tennis shoe wearing Iraqi kids who didn't have any training at all and still tied up the U.S. military for how long? Because they didn't get any training. They didn't get any live fire for training. Think about it. And of course, you stand out in the street and dump a 30-round mag down range because they were watching a movie. But in reality, we all aim. There isn't a quote-unquote obsolete gun that I couldn't carry that wouldn't kill you dead right now. As far as a 100-year-old firearm, put yourself in 1920, and you tell me what gun wouldn't work right now and get the job done. Now, another thing is with regard to medical operations. How many of you know World War I medical procedure? How many of you understand that pretty much most all of World War I medical procedure is in no way, shape, or form obsolete? We just have other ideas about how to do things. But understand this, as quickly as all that real new modern tech that you have dries up, you're going to have to turn to something So how much do you know about actual medical procedures used in World War I? Not the propaganda BS where they're trying to tell you, oh, they were so stupid. Really. There are basic rules. In fact, here's a term, you've probably read it, especially in the older books, or if you read, from World War I, actually going all the way back through to the Civil War, the antiseptic smell of the infirmary, which had a tendency to, of course, turn people away. The antiseptic smell. Do you know what most of that was? Bleach. Do you know how to use bleach in a medical environment? You know where I learned most of my information on that? World War II. Well, no, correction. I knew a lot of World War I vets, okay? And some of them were medics, although one of my longest friends, and he almost made it to 100, was a World War I ordnance lieutenant who actually was there before the Expeditionary Force showed up in World War I. I actually was the officer in charge of his burial detail and organized the burial detail of young that lay him to rest. But all the times I had a chance to talk to him were fascinating, and of course he brought back mortar shells, mines, grenades, real ones, and automatic weapons, belt-fed stuff. He had 7 footlockers he brought back, and he packed them solid, and he shipped back something like 8 more. His garage was kind of like a World War I museum, and everything in it was live. He goes, what the hell, I was an ordnance officer. I know how to handle all this stuff. Yeah, okay. But because of this, and having 3 Purple Hearts, he was wounded before the Expeditionary Force hit the ground. He was wounded again, gassed twice, by the way, too. They didn't count that the same as getting a battle wound, if you can believe that one. My grandpa said the same thing, and he was gassed 3 times. But the medical procedures that he demonstrated to me, stuff that he learned when he was in the rear, because they never took you off the line completely. They'd take you to the rear, they'd let you recuperate, and then they'd put your ass back out there trying to get you killed again. Well, Doc Robinson, who was a World War II vet, eventually became a trauma surgeon. Almost all of the surgery work that he did for me that was clandestine, because we really couldn't go to the hospital for some of the things that had been involved in the Dagger War, I recognized immediately bleach being one of the preferred, and his position, especially when you don't know how much foreign matter is in a wound area, a wound channel, and you're trying to, clear out all of the maybe other probed material that's come in with, say, bandage dressings and maybe other material, depending on whether or not you were, you bound a dressing but then continued to be active. Dirt, crud, dust. And as he pointed out, there are 3 different bleach formulas that were used consistently in World War I and still used quite extensively in World War II because of all of the other ways that you could have foreign matter introduced into a wound channel while you were being chopped, spliced, diced, or, minced. A grenade goes off. Everybody thinks about a grenade, but it's like, or a mortar shell. Well, guys, everything around the mortar shell also becomes a fragmentation device or part of the fragmentation wave, and it gets sucked into the wound channel. There's horrific stories of some of the stuff that happened with people too near outhouses and such. Yeah, all kinds of wicked things. What do you do for a guy that's got stuff in him that came from somebody else and came out the wrong end and is already 100% bacteria and waste? So anyway, Doc explained that to me, and then I had Stephen. Stephen was with us while I was treating his cancers, and again, like I said, we successfully eradicated physically cancers from his, skin cancers, subsurface tissue cancer from his body. I was the person who did the maintenance. Well, Stephen taught me a lot about other maintenance procedures, all of them obsolete. Not really obsolete, it's just that they have other religious preferences nowadays. However, they also don't tell you that pretty much all of the old techniques are turned to, especially when they have a voluminous wound. In other words, really bad, shreddy, choppy, busty, breaky. Oh, by the way, you got a skin flap here the size of 2 hands and kind of opens up, and then I could lay it flat. But if I lay it flat, all that junk in there is still in there. Oh, you roll that back and break out the scrub brushes and the betadine and the bleach solution, and you clean and scrub all of that out before you even do any of the surgery. Now, as far as techniques, here's another thing to remember about medical procedures, just like military operations. They come and they go, and it's purely a matter of religiosity with regard to the attitude of the day. Let me give you an example. What happened to QuickClot? Huh? Oh, that was the cat's meow, remember, at the beginning of, Desert Dust Part 2, The Adventure Continues, although it was already out there for Desert Dust Part 1. But what happened to QuickClot? In all of its variants. Why is it that it's been kind of shied away from? Why is it that other options were brought forward? I mean, wasn't QuickClot the solution to everything? Wasn't it the most modern? Wasn't it the most sophisticated? Wasn't it the thing to turn to? Well, then why do we turn away from it? Now, it's not that we did turn completely away from it. As a matter of fact, let me ask you something. If you had QuickClot in your kit, but you have the new wave of training, would you or would you not use the QuickClot once you realize that, all that new wave tech that you had that was based on the new wave training, it's dead now. You don't have any more. You used it all. Bob, Fred, Frank, and Sally were both sent to the rear with all of your latest whiz-bang, super medical expensive stuff that you had, and all you got left is the second generation equipment that's there. Is it obsolete, or are you going to use it? Well, you're just going to let them bleed? You're going to give up? You're going to forget? Now, understand that there are issues with regard to QuickClot, because it actually, if you understand, I want you to go find out, see if you can find out what the active ingredients of QuickClot is. How many have you ever bothered? I know. No, I'm not going to say. I know. There's a little hint. It burns. Hint. It burns. Hint again. It burns. But you don't know that. Typically, a guy with traumatic bullet perforation, probably a through and through, or maybe snapped a bone. You know what? There's a point where you can jam anything you want a little while. You can jam anything you want in that wound channel if you're lucky because of shock and the trauma involved. So you can plug up a hole real quick and stop the guy from losing all his radiator fluid and then not being able to move anymore. No ticky, no washy. So there is no such thing as obsolete, because at a given point, you're going to peel back from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next, and you better know all of them. One of the dirty things about Vietnam, remember the North Vietnamese, or I should say the Viet Cong, they didn't have enough of anything. They stole our medical supplies if they could, which is why we burned stuff, why there was a standing order to destroy any reserve materials. Of course, we'd change out bed dressing on a regular basis, no matter how, of course we would, obviously, if it's pustulating and you've got all kinds of matter that's being pulled. But that includes IV tubes that be chucked and everything else. Well, guess what? The other side didn't have a logistics train. So being able to scavenge and pull a set of plastic lines out of a dump and bleaching them up and cleaning them, or using, for instance, in an emergency, here's a fun one for you. Think about this. Taking, this is what it was demonstrated. This technology was captured. The Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, in their medical facilities were using air lines, pneumatic fine air lines like you use for operating the pumps on the windshield wipers on like the old Jeeps and the old M715s. And then they would take we need an IV needle because we're going to do what are we going to do here? Well, we don't have bags of plasma, so we have to do transfusions. So you get those, those insert rod / pokey tubes that you use for pumping up a basketball or a football. Well, how about if you take the threaded end and you clamp that or fasten that with a piece of wire, lock that in place on the end of one of those black rubber hoses, and then you sharpen the thing on an angle like the old needles you'd see in World War I or World War II, because they used to just grind them and reuse them if you didn't know that. And then you take another one on the other end, and then you put a clamp on that, and you've got yourself a transfusion line, person to person. Well, Mark, is that sterile? Oh, I'm sure it's not. Is it clean? Well, they made it as clean as they could. Did it work? Well, they used it quite often. That's as obsolete. Well, that's not even code. How could you do that? How could you do that? Well, it's real easy. They improvised, they adapt, and they overcame. I want you to think about that for a minute. There is no such thing as obsolete medical practice. Let me give you an example. Right now, standard practice would be if somebody's got a limb missing, like I said, we bag it, tag it, we put it on the guy's chest, make sure it doesn't leave him or it's attached and moving with him. Would you do that if you didn't have the ability to reconnect? I mean, I would take the boot and the sock off the leg, give it to somebody else maybe, or at least put it in reserve, somebody will get a better boot. But would you save the leg if you knew full well you do not have the ability to reattach? So you go back to an obsolete procedure, wouldn't you? Not really obsolete. It's based upon the technology and resources available at the moment, and, of course, the depth of tactical and strategic reserve supply that you have put together as militia. How deep is your larder? What have you done to build up communications, medical, and transportation? There is no such thing as, quote-unquote, obsolete. The necessity of the moment will dictate what it is that you have to use. It's that simple. Anyway, we are at the top here. We're going to take a break. Oh, just past the top by a minute. We should be hearing the music. It is a beautiful Weapons Wednesday. God bless the Republic. Death to the New World Order. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire is on the run. We're in the march. We'll be back right here. A few minutes coming up the next hour of the Intel Report. It's Weapons Wednesday.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
Join Mark and Don for Weapons Wednesday, where you'll learn how to use everything from your bare hands to your average AR-15.
The 12 gauge autoloader,
Sure?
the 45 long slide
Yep.
with laser sighting,
You betcha.
the Uzi 9mm
Yes, sir.
phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range.
What are you, crazy?
Wrong.
Okay, they'll talk about that too. So whatever question you have about whatever weapon you have, call Mark and Don on Weapons Wednesday. And remember, your mind is your first best weapon.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free, home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we'd hoped you to always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm, and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors, so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores, and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand. Defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. Pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you. God bless this republic.
Then there was Sam. He was the village idiot. and though it was a pity it, oh well. He used to burn down houses just to watch the glow, but nothing could be done because he was the Antifa mayor's son. Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Gornke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, southwest, east, northeast, and west. Ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies, east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in Lower 49, including the great state of Jefferson, along with CONUS, the outlying two states, the territories, and the clock. It is 6:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the 12th year of open Fabian socialist and Soviet socialist occupation of America with a K. It's right there in your face. After all, you got to kill all the white people crew, all the other fun stuff. 2020, old Earth calendar, 2020, year of conflict, year of betrayal, and the dance of swords. Congratulations, we're at war. Now, what are you going to do? Because you're in competition. You are in competition. What are you going to do? I know I'm not going to mildew, that's for sure. It is Weapons Wednesday, by the way. It is the 8th of July. And for everybody, again, we've been kind of going over a variety of things. Needless to say, ammunition, weapons availability, the available arms through the different conventional sources. There's still stuff probably out there in pawn shops that's going to be last ofs. Not all of that's bad. In fact, a lot of people have snubbed certain weapons, which I would point out are actually preferential choices, simply because they're cheap and you can get more of them, so you can have more shotguns for the dollar. Old Stevens pump shotguns. You used to be able to get them for $65 a piece when the Remingtons were $200 and $250 used, and everything else was pricey, okay? But Stevens pump shotguns. And by the way, there were several Stevens contracts, both before and during the Vietnam War. Some of you might recall that if you were in quartermaster or if you were especially in payroll, if you were the MPs or with payroll. You had a number of inane shotguns that were actually part of the inventory for the MPs and other support branches, and they were quite unique. We even had an 8-gauge shotgun, a little clutch of them at Fort Lost in the Woods, Missouri for payroll. It was like looking at a sewer pipe. They kept them around. Hell, they were pre-World War II guns, and they kept them around simply because for escorting payroll, yeah, they looked impressive. They were just, hello, sewer, pipes. 8-gauge, not 10-gauge, 8-gauge, yeah. So anyway, they're long gone. I'm sure when Clinton came in, they chopped them all up once he got into power. It's like all the guns I'm mentioning like that were in the inventory. They were destroying them in mass. I had all the reports directly from the people who were doing it. Sad to say, but anyway, Stevens pump guns or any of the older off-breed pump guns that are American work just fine. I would point out that, like, for instance, I get 16-gauge, 12-gauge, and 20-gauge Stevens for, like I said, $65, $55, up to $100 a piece. If the gun was $100, usually really, really, really nice shape, grade A Stevens. And the weapons worked. Were they fancy? Nope. But you know what I kept them around for? 510 program. They were good enough to hand out to somebody who showed up bare butt naked, and they could be a team leader for a butter knife brigade, a butter knife squad. You get a shotgun, the assistant team leader gets a steak knife, and the other 8 people in your squad get butter knives. Now, pick out some enemy position, go kill one guy, and start re-equipping everybody with better weapons. boom, stabby, 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 stabby. Oh, stabby, 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 stabby. There you go. Now another guy's got a gun. Now it's boom, pop, 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 pop. There we go. Stabby, 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 stabby. Because they don't die right away. And, the butter knives, you got to keep stabbing. The important thing is that as you, sorry about that, as you, that's kind of interesting, as you accumulate more, you can retire the butter knives to a degree. Not completely, because, well, you eventually put them back in the box and I'll give them to somebody else. But that shotgun would have been a better choice, right? Would have been preferred for a lot of you. Makes more noise, shreds things, and there are 5 shots. There weren't anything fancy. 4 in the tube, 1 in the, one in the chamber. But that's 5 very aggressive rounds available, and you can always reload for the bottom. Now, otherwise, there's a lot of other pump guns out there like that. Pick a model that you can see there's maybe a good quantity of that are in the used racks, if there's any left, and embrace it. Find out more about it, and then if you choose to go that route, grab 5 or 6 of those, make that your 510 program gun. Because a lot of guys have been asking, well, you're talking about putting 5 weapons on the shelf. I can't find 5 of the same weapons. Probably in shotguns is still going to be your best bet. Certainly there's 22s, not the most exciting, and I keep hearing people poo-pooing with what you're seeing your enemy, or even some of the people who are not necessarily of like mind, but when they're performing, people are making stupid comments. Example, that couple in St. Louis. I know a lot of weenie boys who will yap all about how they got this gun, that gun, and a whole bunch of others. But when push comes to shove, they'd be terrified of the idea that they'd have to do what that couple did. And granted, they're horrible with their trigger, where their finger was on the trigger. No, it wasn't. Their finger was in the right place for the enemy they were facing. A person who's kind of tense and, screaming at you and got their finger on the trigger, you better figure they might just shoot you accidentally and then just keep shooting because they realize it ain't going to make any difference. So that's what kept that crowd away, not the tremendous professional training of my super tactical team, but rather the idea that they were willing to step up and fight, and they had no restrictions left. Same with the guy with the AR-15. No matter what we say, he had this. People are even making stupid comments. He had a carry handle AR-15. You snobbery gun fools. If that's the case, I don't want your butt anywhere near me when the time comes. In fact, you'll probably be, I wouldn't. Go somewhere else. Okay? Go somewhere else. But not here, okay? Not with me. I don't need that nonsense. If somebody shows up with an AR-15 with a carry handle, that's fantastic. Whatever it is they got, they probably know how to use. Probably been using it for quite some time. Kind of stupid to open your face about something like that. Really stupid. Demonstrates an idiocy that I don't really want near me. That kind of stupid is why you end up being alone. Okay? You guys are dummies. They got the good stuff. You don't got the good stuff. We got good stuff. Our stuff is really good. Works just fine. We like it. We all love the other guy that's got some. Tell you what, why don't you kick rocks and get on down the road with your special stuff. See how that works? Now, on the other hand, with the bad guys, there's going to be some mistakes made and goofiness, but you know what? That random shot will kill you just as well as that well-placed, marksman shot that I'm probably trying to put down there. And the fickle finger of fate doesn't know any good timing for anything. So understand, if it'll put a bullet down range and the guy was willing to show up, how many of your people are willing to stand in the middle of the street and actually puff up and get in the enemy's face? How many of them immediately would say, that's dangerous. They know who I am. See how many piss-police? That's the part that y'all better understand here with what you're seeing going on right now. And again, we got a lot of piss-willies on our side. As soon as they saw all those black people with guns talking about killing all the white people, it's the end. It's Revelation. Jesus is sick and coming. We're doomed. We're going to die. I'm going to crap my spine out my bunghole like a meat xylophone. And you know what? I warned you about those people, too, many times, and I'll continue to do so. Do you want that person standing next to you if they can't hold their mud in when the time comes and things get serious, let alone their spine, okay? You know what I mean by mud, okay? That's a polite way of talking about something else. Yeah, he kind of stinky right now. Yeah, they could have surprised me and I had to go to the bathroom. Yeah, I know. I can smell that. Okay, well, yeah, but you know what? I'm here. Yeah, it's true. At least it didn't run. So, yeah, hopefully we can change you'll change the pants later, trust me. In fact, if we even have to take off one of these corpses, it'll smell better than you do right now. God. However, that is the fact of the situation. The little nitpicky stuff, yes, we know there's going to be goof-ups. You know what? If you watch any of this combat footage from Iraq, do you know how many screw-up operations you can pick out? I mean, especially if there's a camera around. Do you ever notice that? When there's a camera and they know somebody's filming stuff, oh, God. Talk about crossing over barrels, turning and, not paying attention, throwing grenades in the absolute wrong place because you wanted to throw a grenade for that camera. You know what I mean? So again, I understand. Realistically evaluate. Not there's someone that made mistakes. How good were the rest? What would you rate the overall formation? Did the formation do what it's supposed to do? Did it get its message across? In some ways, they did it better than you have. Why don't you all think about that? Now, I'm not saying I'm embracing the devil, but I understand when my enemy is highly motivated. My enemy is, in fact, being motivated by the cash provided by the enemies we have in government and the enemies we have overseas. The government lets bring that money in to buy those black mercenaries and, the other white, was it racially challenged goofs that are out there, etc., to stir the pot. Our government's letting this happen. Our government is to blame. The administration is to blame. Period. All of it. Republican and Democrat, they're all against you, the producer. I will say again, you are in competition. You better get over the idea that somehow you're going to slide by this. You better get into the competition and get serious about it. That is the priority. Now, one of the things about these, inane firearms that are left laying around, yes, you do need to go over everything because, there are weapons that are hanger queens. It's hard to do certain work, as far as looking at a weapon, there's only so much you can do. I mean, I will remind you again, we had two of the brand new from the Colt Custom House AR-15 A1s, well, A2s, forgive me. Beautiful weapons, if you looked at them. Everything seemed to be right. One of them took about 15 to 20 parts in the inventory to make it work right. The other one, we just could not get it to work. Now, this is a top-end, most expensive gun. It was a top-end, whole barrel, H-bar, all the bells and whistles, out of the Colt Custom factory, Colt Custom House, their express house, and this gun just simply couldn't pass muster. Even with all the extra goodies that were on it, custom triggers, the whole 9 yards. The gun simply would not shoot, and it wouldn't shoot anything. Trust me, we have ammunition you've never seen that we can shoot. And no matter what we tried, we couldn't get it to work. And that was a brand new, out of the box, just as beautiful and pristine a rifle finish-wise as you could ask for. All the plastic was shiny and bright without a scratch. Everything came out of the plastic bag. And it didn't work any better than some of the guns that always people make yap about that I've typically found at least function. Everybody used to make the noise about Andersons, okay? It's like, yeah, what's your point? Well, they're cheap. Well, yep, they are. They're the Gladius. They're the utility Gladius of the bunch. But pretty much most of the time, pull the trigger and they work. Not so much that Colt. And which one would I cry more about because it didn't work right and I found out the wrong time? That Colt. The Anderson, I bought 4 more. This one doesn't work as well. But the other 5 or 6 I have, they work fine. Pew, 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 pew. Was it my first choice? No, I just needed to make a bunch of guns, and that's what we worked with. Now we're tweaking them. We're making everything work. See, you do take things out to the range, and you do practice, but you practice seriously. You don't just blow ammunition away. You perfect a science and process for developing your skill and ensuring the performance of the weapons that you've chosen. Just spraying and praying is not testing your weapon or the mettle and resolve of the training that has been provided to you. That is something you need to take more seriously. Maybe most of you are, hopefully, but not everybody. So you've got to change that. Now, It's a little harder with all the ammunition shortage, isn't it? Because you're kind of screwed at this point. This is where we, like we said before, about buying the ammo when it was cheap. Okay, well, here's something. How many of you are new shooters out there because you just bought a brand new rifle because you finally had that epiphany and decided you were going to buy a gun? And maybe you had a good person who's sitting next to you that's helped you to develop the idea that you need that gun. Congratulations to your friend sitting next to you. Good work. However, now you've got the uphill battle of being able to get the amount of training necessary to perfect your skills, while not consuming all of the battle munitions that you just accumulated, which are minimal, in order for you to go and fight a battle and perhaps wage war. Ooh, there's a quandary, isn't there? Now, I'm going to recommend this again. Two directions to go, and both of them are right now reasonably priced and also have some excellent examples, especially if you have ARs, M14s, AKs, is airsoft or the BB guns. Now, there's a whole new family of BB guns. When I say BB gun, don't you think the Daisy 45 kind of look alike? Remember with the pullback? Yeah, those were good little guns. They still make them. BB guns, .177 caliber. However, there is a whole new family. Some of them you've seen, like the MP40 full auto BB guns. They are absolutely in demand. In fact, you can upgrade the apertures. You can put an air tank connector on the end, so you have unlimited high pressure, and you dump 500-600 rounds of that BB downrange down a hallway. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. It's going to not feel good, okay? And by the way, you have an unlimited reservoir, too. There's all kinds of neat stuff you can do. However, that's not what we're looking at. We need training aids. There are excellent examples of the AR-15 and several of the other standard arms available in these new 177. They are CO2 run. They are very efficient. They are very accurate. So for in-house, less than 1,000-yard, 1,000-inch, not 1,000-yard, forgive me, 1,000-inch, you know what that is, 25-yard range, 25-meter range, 1,000-inch range? You know that, okay. For that kind of training, the BB guns will work just fine to help you develop all of the basic skills necessary. And I've told you before, buy a couple of bags of Dollar Tree toy soldiers. Set them out at designated ranges or simulated ranges and use them as the confidence motivators. What do you mean by that? Well, you aim and you hit, you've done everything you're supposed to do right. If you aim and you miss, you obviously need to work at it. It's not the gun, it's the shooter, typically, because all of these airsoft, especially the upper-end airsoft, you can spend any kind of money you want. I wouldn't spend top dollar. But you can spend any kind of money you want on airsoft that matches every weapon you've got. I've got HKs, Glocks, SIGs, every form of Beretta you can imagine, including some I never expected to see. Revolvers, Colts, Rugers, Smiths, Dan Wessons, and all of them are perfect for muscle memory training and repeat training at an economical price, especially now that we are desperately short the munitions that we need for the armies that are being built. You need to get range time in. How many of you have had range time? You got a brand new AR-15. How many times have you been able to shoot it because of the cost of ammunition or availability of ammunition? Now, because of that, you need another solution. Airsoft gives you the option. You can find an AR that absolutely matches the rifle you bought yesterday from the gun shop. You can buy it in metal, you can buy it in plastic. You can buy it spring, which is crudest and cheapest, or you can buy it in electric, or you can buy it in gas. Now, yeah, well, these magazines are really big. Well, you don't load them really big. If you're serious about training and you have an AR-15 and it takes a 30-round magazine, how many BBs do you put in the magazine? Do you put 500 BBs in the magazine? Or do you put 30 BBs in the magazine so that you train as you will fight, so that you fight as you have trained? Oh, yeah, you can keep it realistic, too. Then you have to do magazine change out, reload the weapon, introduce all of the basics to the weapon's, posture for performance. And if you do it right, you hit. And if you don't, you miss. Positive feedback, negative feedback. Airsoft, 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 airsoft. Okay? Tell you what, we're almost to the bottom of Ed's there. Our traditional Weapons Wednesday, bottom of the hour break music. We haven't done that in a day or two, or a few weeks. We've been kind of busy with all the stuff that is going on. And airsoftgi.com, www.airsoftgi.com, www.airsoftgi.com, or you can go to www.airsoftstation.com, www.airsoftstation.com, www.airsoftstation.com. There's a couple of airsoft solutions. Go take a look. And by the way, always look for sales. Right now there are all metal electric AR-15s that are metal and plastic. In other words, look just like your AR, the one you want, maybe an M4 knockoff, whatever, for under or around $100. Oh, yeah. So in other words, you could be training, you get it, you're training the next day or that day. Every day during lunchtime you can practice. Every day after work you can practice. Every day at midnight, you can go down to the basement, out to the garage, or even right in the living room, and treat your training aid seriously rather than thinking it's a toy. It's not a toy. It is a training aid. Government makes training aids. They make sub-caliber devices for all the big toys. They make training boards or training modules where you sit in a position and simulate mortar fire, simulate machine gun fire, simulate a rifle range in depth. How many of you spent any time in Europe with all of the different NATO configured because of limited training space, indoor ranges that did just exactly what I have just described? Well, to me, airsoft is stupid. No, airsoft is not stupid. As a matter of fact, let me ask you another thing. Are we going to be just saying piss on anybody else who wants to join after the war starts? How are you going to train the new people coming up? Going to make a lot of noise? I mean, granted, at some point you'll have a secure area where you can. You got a lot of time to make a lot of noise so you can attract attention, but you're trying to teach people how to use a weapon? Wouldn't it be great to have a training aid, airsoft, or the BB guns that allow you to actually focus on all of the basics and teach people how to properly handle and use the weapon with an effective and realistic training aid that allows your people to accelerate and perform more effectively? Now you won't be that kid with the cut-off shorts standing there with the AK at his hip, angled on a 45-degree angle, jumping out in the middle of the street, burning 30 rounds, not hitting jack squat, and everybody hearing crack, 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 crack over their heads, and then you go, ah, and you jump back behind the corner, and the other guy jumps out and repeats the whole dumb process. How about instead you put the weapon to your shoulder, lean in a little bit, even if you did want to dump that 30-round mag, and line up those sights and put that sight line up right underneath the target you want to hit, and then dump the rounds a little more accurately to where they belong. Would be kind of nice to at least, get the basics down, wouldn't it? How are you going to train the next generation in a wartime environment? My dad, in World War II, when he went in at Great Lakes Naval Station, they trained with wooden board rifles. They basically had a 2x4 that had been cut out like a rifle. At the end of their time there, they got to fire 40 rounds at 22 gallery short. That was his familiarization before he went to the Pacific. That's it. I'll tell you what, I think we can do better. Don't you? You know we can. And no, I can't afford to consume the ammunition in the earliest phases, especially right now where we're going into ground-land battle. We're going to need every live round we can get our hands on. And it won't be enough. We've cleaned out the shelves. If you don't think so, you go look at the information out there on what's been going on in all of these suppliers, okay? And you tell me. Sportsman's Guide has ammunition. They're making special announcements when they get the next batch of stuff in. I just got an email. Oh, wow, they got 2 different flavors of 5.56 in. Oh, wow, they're out of everything else just about, except for the very, very expensive $60 a box ammo. So you tell me, Anyway, while we're on Sportsman's Guide, I got to mention this again. www.sportsmansguide.com. No, they do not advertise with us. We just see something good. We want it in our hands. www.sportsmansguide.com. Sportsman's with an S. Sportsmansguide.com. When you get there, punch in new, exclamation point in capitals. New. Check military surplus medical bandage bag kit. New. It is $63. Again, it is check military surplus medical bandage bag kit. So it is a doc kit, a doc bulk kit. Told you about these before. I build these at home using a number of different bags that I was taught to use way back in the day, okay? And new, check, military surplus medical bandage bag kit, new. These are unissued, and they are item number WX2-713070. That is WX2-713070. That is serial number, item number, WX2-713070. These are $63 a piece. Now, if you take a look at it, there are some tools in there. There's not just bandages in there. And, in fact, there is a list of items, but you can count the number of medium, the carless dressing bandages, compresses, double pads. Like I said, there's the two that you see that are the tan color, medium coyote, no, more like actually tan, not the cream colored like the other ones that are on the flaps. Those are probably large dressings by Czech standard. Now, they're not quite as big as what we call an elephant tampon in the U.S. military, or at least used to. Those are a large area dressing for doing, scraped, shredded, burned, whatever. It would be nice to have burn gel packs, but they're few and far between, and a lot of places have sold out, or the only thing I have left is outdated, which I'll buy. I already did yesterday. But they'll even tell you, it's outdated as of, next month. I don't care. Can't get any, so I need some for the medical pouches I just put together, and for the ambulance we're picking up. So a quantity was needed. Well, I did get some of these. Hopefully they'll be on the front porch eventually. The only thing I can say is if you look at the bag, count the number of bandages, pay attention to some of the other tools, go down and look at the list, which really is, it tells you, it varies from bag to bag. But this is a good price for what these are. And trying to find any bundle kit like this that's an actual military pack like this is difficult to find and costs hundreds of dollars. In this case, $63. It's $62.99. I'll throw the penny in. There you go. Penny's in there, $63. And again, free shipping, because anything over $49 is free shipping at Sportsman's Guide. So $63, that takes care of that right there. Now, whether or not you want more than one, you go talk to your people and make a decision. There is space for additional equipment. I want to jam this sucker full as quickly as I get it. But first I'm going to do a quick overview. I'll lay it out. We'll do some pictures, and we'll share it with everybody we can as quick as we can. I don't know how long they're going to last. I do not know how many they have. Typically, these are a minority item. There won't be that many available. Whatever's out, that's probably it. They get these catch-can batches right now. Another thing is somebody's just asking, well, what bag do you use for a medical bag? Well, okay, there's a couple of different ones. Right now we have 4 pallets. In fact, Tom just received 40 of them up north. They're a black rectangular bag that was picked up by one of our allies. We have 4 pallets of them. I'm presently doing those as bulkers, kind of like the bag you're buying here for $63, but not with as great a variety of items. In fact, as I find more things, yesterday I ran into at an estate disposal. I got a pile of medical stuff. Still got some things behind me that need to go into Ziploc bags. They will, and I'm going to divide them up, and they're going to go into these medical kits. Bandages, 4x4s, medical scissors, clamps, anything like that. And they need to be consistently in the same place if at all possible. Now, because these are bulk bags, And this one is actually probably it was an old instrument or computer bag of some kind, but it was a very nice one and very well built. It's typical for the stuff that they used to make. Needless to say, everything's tiny, so why build a bag for it? Well, these surplus or surfeit of bags are awfully handy. In this case, it's a volume bag so that Doc, when he runs out of whatever's in the first one, I can have one of the guys carrying 4 or 5 of these to the front, in addition to whatever else. You're hanging by shoulder straps, and you just shrug them off and drop them over by Doc. Here you go, Doc, 2 more, and the rest are over there where the rest of your casualties are. And then you keep right on moving. But you're moving forward, you become a mule. You carry extra equipment forward, you drop it off for the people who need it. That's how a system of allies, a system of fellow soldiers, militiamen, works. Everybody pitches in, okay? However, now I'm going to address what I just had happen with medical bag. Well, here's one that I've used the most. And if you got to go over to Coleman's.com, when you get over to Coleman's, they have a radio bag. No, we're not talking the Molly one I've mentioned before. It's actually a shoulder bag. If I can find them in the black rubber, I've built hundreds with the black rubber bags from the Vietnam era to about the early 90s. The replacement is in striated rubber material, striated nylon. And it is actually a good bag. I didn't expect to see them out this quick. I mean, they have been around for a little while, but the unique stuff like this doesn't come out that quickly in the surplus. A lot of times you won't see it until after, way past the era, if it's a unique item that is adapted to a particular minority process, medical support, special warfare operations, signal communications. And because of this, the radio bags, which are actually, if you've ever seen them, they're pretty bulky. Actually, what would be the equivalent? Actually, take like a bread box and lay it on end. That's approximately the size of these. And as it is, there's a couple of different shoulder-type bags that are comparable. But the nice thing about these, well, they may or may not have them in stock anymore. Ooh! I mentioned it too many times and everybody grabbed it because everybody's going to war. Well, they did have them at Coleman's, and unfortunately the one that I wanted too, the Molly type, that's gone and sold out. And it looks like they finally ate up what was left over in the, well, hold on, we might be lucky. I'm going to see if I can find it another way. There we go. They might still have one of the variations. Anyway, the bags are designed with both shoulder straps and like shoulder backpack straps, and a carry strap. Now, the carry strap is detachable. The shoulder straps are stitched to the bag. But the neat thing about this is that these are designed to be water-resistant / mostly waterproof. And for that reason, because they're a big bay reach-in bag, they're a great utility bulk bag for medical gear. Typically, when I pack one of those up, I do 2 of the large elephant tampons, and then a half case of the medium dressings, and then a whole case of the small compress / dressings. And years ago, I made a deal on the smalls. I think I bought like 2 pallets. And so every once in a while, I'll break open another couple cases when I get another bag, and we'll refill, reload, well, let's say refill, we'll fill, load more, and take advantage of the inventory that we have so that we just, keep making up a consistent bundle of the same over and over and over again. Now, one of the other things I do with the big bags are utility splints. Now, what type do I have? Well, here's like what somebody was saying the other day. I had to laugh. I have steel, obsolete steel, ladder type, splints. Should I throw them all away? They're old. They're obsolete. Yeah, my ass. But in addition to that, I've also got fiberglass. I've got wood. I've got, in fact, Vietnam era, end of the Vietnam era, they made them in fiberglass. They made them in wood. They made the bridges. Some are flexible, some are rigid. The bridge type, you can bend to whatever you need to do. That's why they're the ladder type. I've got cases, and in fact, I've got, again, probably 2 pallets of those still sitting here. And I haven't even subdivided them all, but what I did do is take 1 pallet and move it to a totally different location. Don't need all the stuff piled up in one place and get taken out when the time comes. The other pallet's in another location, but they are separated by distance, and I'm happy and, smiling and waving. The big thing here, again, is to divide up the material so that Doc has what he needs in segments. Now, he's not going to chuck out what you send in the way of extra. In fact, there really never is any extra, quote unquote. It just simply, it's going to take its turn, but eventually it's going to be used. That's all there is to it. Everything, you will never have enough medical support to the front. You're always going to be looking for more. Example, if you've had enough training, remember, one of the things they teach you is to use even the baggies, the bags, the plastic wrappers and such. Sucking chest wound, anybody? For supplementing or for sealing up a particular type of wound, depending upon what the instruction was, what the type of wound is. Obviously, there are multiple options, but you're going to run out of equipment real quick. You're going to not have any more. And you're going to have to eventually resort to working with whatever else it is you've got. And a lot of it is, well, it's whatever man-made material is taken into the field. Yeah, it looks like I was buying myself time while we've been talking here, and it looks like the bags are probably gone. If I find them, I'll bring them up at 8 o'clock. The new ones are OD green. The original ones were black rubber. And they're black rubber with a cotton set of shoulder straps, you know, the backpack straps, and a cotton detachable hanger type for your shoulders, so you could strap one over. You could put one on as a backpack and carry one in each over each shoulder, and go in like a big chipmunk. You know, like you've got a mouthful of like you got a mouthful of walnuts. Only in this case, it's 3 bags full of support gear for Doc. You run it in, drop it off, keep moving. Everybody carries one, and you've got a massive amount of material to move forward. Now, I would point out this is from an infantry perspective, but and the only difference with our mech is, example, the ambulance projects we're working on right now. We would have multiples of the same bags on board the ambulances, but we'd still have the same bag system. Why? Well, we may have to pass it out, move it forward, or we may have to abandon the vehicle. So everything on board the ambulances, which we're not using as ambulance, we're only using the title that originally is designated. They're going to be basically forward mobile aid stations. If they get knocked out, destroyed, taken out, or whatever, we don't care. We leave them. But everything on board can be pulled and is made mobile immediately. One of the things I'm doing is defib units. The ambulance models are perfect. They're designed to pull from the rack and take out of the vehicle and run over to where somebody's sitting next to a lake that just got pulled out of it. Oh, he's dead. Oh, don't worry, we can bring him back. There you go. And so the basic technology is already built. We just got to track down more of it. On that note, I bid on some of the Iron Planet defib units. I do not know if I got them. I already decided what I was willing to pay, but I will know probably tonight because I believe the particular bids are up as of this evening. So there's a lot of stuff coming through Iron Planet. I'm not really excited about going crazy on bidding, but I am, again, the basic rule, don't go insane or you'll overpay. Pick a price, stick to it, flatline it. If you get it, fine. If you don't get it, who cares? Only takes 15 minutes. Minimize. Go ahead, caller. Jump in there, please.
This is Rick out of Oregon. I try not to call 2 days in a row, but you hit a hot spot here. Number one, with the Stevens shotguns, I love those guns. A lot of the pre-World War II 12 gauges, and I'm not sure about the rest of them because, I've used them for dove hunting and I love them. But a lot of the pre-World War II stuff, the follower that pushes the shells forward is actually Bakelite, and it degrades.
Right.
And there is not a replacement. You can have people make stuff for you, and, you can get them up and running again. But I just want people to be aware. If you're picking up a pre-World War II shotgun, I've got a 1967 Stevens, and you set them side by side, the average person wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Oh, a lot of the weapons, well, especially, you got to remember, we got stuff that's now, like I said, 110, 120 years old. The model 1897 Thumbbuster, Flinchchesters, I mean, everybody used to absolutely had to have those until they shot them once. Oh, I kind of warned you about that. What do you think they called him a thumb buster for? Oh, I got a scar. Yeah, you'll have a scar, and I'll know you from this point forward. Mine is right behind, halfway between the knuckle and the base of the hand, and I know exactly how that scar, exactly what it was. Model 97 pump gun. 16
anyway,
gauge,
I just
not
want
a 12, 16 gauge, matter of fact. Yeah,
you might be able to use that in negotiation as well. I mean, as long as you've got somebody who can fix it. I'm still hurting. I had a 1927 Stevens, and it had a hidden. It was one of the early safeties on it. It was actually one of the screws. It was a fake screw. You push it forward, and that was a safety. Anyway, I took it in to have this gun shop fix it, and they went out of business. And yeah, I lost that damn gun. I missed that thing. I tried tracking his dumbass down, and I never could. Of course, the cops will never help me with that. But that was my favorite shotgun. And it was the Bakelite deal gave out. And yeah, you know, if you want to feed it in one at a time, that was great. But other than that.
Well, most of the Vietnam era, when they Stevens got the contract, was about 65, 66. And the second generation of guns, well, they were actually in such a hurry because you're right there in the middle of the war. The guns that went into the field, the ones they had, like the MPs had the bird, the field, the field scene on the side. They didn't worry about. They were worried about getting their weapons into the field to the troops. So whatever they had in the factory at that moment when they were awarded the contract, they used. And so it's kind of funny, some of the stuff. If it never would come out in surplus because they wouldn't let any of the guns come out. You know, DOD's been destroying things for years, right? But it was fascinating that Stevens, you know, nothing fancy about them. They actually were the lowest bidder, I'm sure. And the guns
Savage
worked.
made it for them.
Yeah, the guns work though. I mean, again, I know a lot of guys back in the late 70s, guys that I knew that were in Vietnam would, you know, I was searching for 1967, 68 Stevens pump guns. They wanted them because it's what they carried. You know, it's what they had. And, you know, eventually I tracked them. I did get one, and it was a surplus gun. Now, where it came from, I don't know. But it was a clean weapon because where it came from, I know that. But it was an actual military issue, 20-inch tube, four in the tube, one in the chamber, straightforward pump shotgun. And it was military issue. Beat to hell. I mean, but it was still on the outside. It looked like like it'd been just dragged through everything. Internally, just as crisp as could be, and the weapon worked every time. And the guy was happier than a pig in mud. He goes, "Man, I never thought I'd find one of these." And I said, "I never even seen one of these."
Mine's a civilian version. It's not a.
Yeah. Well, and again, I just happened to be at one of the gun shows in Detroit where I was setting up. I set up, and then a lot of stuff comes through the door, and the guy came through and said, "Well, I got a couple of these." And so I paid $65 a piece for both of them. And you know what? I'd carry them in a heartbeat. So it doesn't have to be the latest and the greatest. And a majority of what we're doing right now, guys, a lot of people just don't have anything. I mean, for all of the guns that have been moved, we do have more weapons than we have people. But they're not all going to be where they need to be right now. That's why, again, you need to take care of your personal needs. Do what you can for yourself. Yeah, we'll upgrade you. By the way, enemy corpses they're looking at as a mobile resupply pod. They provide lots of goodies. But that takes a little time. So we need everybody to do what they can, find what they can, get it out where we can use it. So anyway,
the second thing that I wanted to throw out, because you were talking about bandages and that sort of thing. Any of the guys that work in the trades, I've brought home, I don't know how many of the first aid kits, because one company went out of business, another one's coming in. It had just literally been stocked before the company went out of business. So it's a fully loaded first aid kit. We're talking the wall-mounted ones. And a lot of it, is just, it's mostly kind of aches and pain stuff, some small Band-Aids, but not all of it. You've got You've got eye patches. You've got a lot of stuff that you can just take home because, you pull it out of the dumpster. The second thing is those boxes, I don't keep them in that. I've got 3 boxes mounted under the bed of my truck that I pop riveted in. And what's in there, I've got one that has food. I've got one that does have a first aid kit. And I've got one that has other stuff. And I've got it so, the deal is it's mounted up, upside down. But I've got a latch on it that holds it. I coated it. So I coated it and then painted it so it kind of matches underneath. And with the rails, you can't see it at all. And then the third thing I did was, since I do HVAC, we've got butyl, the stuff you put in between ductwork, which is pretty waterproof. And the stuff that's in there is put into waterproof bags as well. But the bonus is, I can store water out there, and I can store it for a longer period of time because it doesn't get as hot as, say, sitting in the cab. And it's out of the way of inside. It's not going to get stolen. Nobody looks under the bed of the truck. And those boxes are fantastic, and they're cheap. I had a couple of them I got, they were something else. So they actually weren't medical boxes, but they're pretty much the same thing. The medical boxes you have to knock the shelves out of. But they're perfect for hidden stuff, out of sight, out of mind.
Oh, exactly, especially since most people, again, aren't going to be wanting to run around underneath the vehicle. It might be dirty, could be wet, and it's a great way for you, if need be, first, to take cover. The truck is kind of nice cover, and in the process, you could recover whatever it is that you need to keep yourself going for a bit. Whatever that third box is, it might be kind of handy, as we know.
Yeah, water. I'll let you know the water, and the rest of it's kind of just stuff that I need. Anyway,
exactly.
But it doesn't say that I don't have stuff in the truck, but that way it's not overrun, or somebody comes in, there's no questions.
Well, real quick, I'm going to change that. I mean, we're almost to the top. You might be interested in this also. I got to add this because somebody said, Mark, you were right, over in Coleman's. USGI Camouflage First Aid Dressing. This is a standard, regular small. 4 for $19.95. These were built in 04, 16, and newer. 4 for $20. They've got USGI Camouflage First Aid Field Dressing, large. This is the one I've been telling you guys. You don't see very many of these. Again, 4 for $20. Now, to be quite honest, granted, it's more bandage than you typically need, but right now, it'll be harder to find USGI Camouflage First Aid Dressing 4-pack large. The size of this one, I got to double check, see if they have the spec. Not quite as large as the big ones that we've been used to, but things change. 11 3/4 by 11 3/4. That's almost a foot by a foot, which is pretty decent. So 4 of these dressings for $20. That's a good price, and they do have them in stock. Now, the reason I bring that up, those check kits, they count how many of the regular dressings, and look at the price for the American one right there, 4 for $20. That's $5 a piece. So if you go to if you figure $5 a piece, if you're buying individual items, even in better quantity, count how many bandages are there times $5. Yeah, see what I'm talking about? Price-wise, that check bag is a good value. However, of the bandages that are over at Coleman's.com, USGI Camouflage First Aid Field Dressing, 4-pack, large. And the SKU number is 563201. 563201. 563201. Brand new. This is military surplus, but we're talking a couple of years old. It's up and down the scale. Doesn't make any difference. Still in the plastic, still in the wrapper, sealed. All the nomenclature is right there where you can see it. And there's a good image of what you're looking at. I'd explain how big these are. This is designed for those, flapping chunks of skin, a divot because a chunk of metal decided it wanted to take a chunk of you with it on the way passing through. When you have something like that, you need a much larger cover dressing. Now, you still may pack it with something. You got the other bandages for that, or you got your 4-bys, or your 6-bys, or your rolls, whatever you got. But this dressing covers a wider area, so if you have something that's a gaping wound or shredding or tearing or, glass, this covers that area to keep it clean and, again, to help to reduce and stop the bleeding if at all possible. Helps the blood to coagulate where it's supposed to. That's why one of the reasons you're putting that dressing in there. It's helping to create a fake scab. Think of it that way, and the blood will work accordingly. Got to keep the radiator fluid, guys. Want to keep as much radiator fluid in as possible, and keep everything as clean as possible. Kind of important to the breathing part of the world, There's the unbreathing part. Most everybody will join that eventually, but let's try to slow that process down, okay? By the way,
one last thing, and
go ahead.
I'm sorry. One last thing before I go. The other thing that you're going to find on these job sites, I have loaded up a number of ladies with the tampon and the MaxiPad dispensers. Normally, it seems like every time they pull those out, they're always full. I brought them home, and ladies need them. And
that they make bandage. You know what? Here's the thing. You just mentioned that. Okay, I want you to think about something. They are making literally what looks like a tampon dispenser, wound dressing, wound channel dispenser. And to be quite honest, I'd be willing to bet somebody started out doing that because it makes sense. You know what I mean? It's a volume creator. The only difference is that they've got one that literally is QuickClot. Okay, it's saturated with QuickClot. They get another one that's with one of the other ambil dressings where it's actually lubricated too, so that it will, it keeps it supple enough that when they have to extract it, it'll help to plug everything up. You put your wound dressing over top of the channel, et cetera, et cetera. But it is designed so that they can quickly move everything out, get into the wound channel, identify the damage, and start working from the inside out. So there's some good solutions. But you know what? Keep in mind, all the stuff that they're using actually at one point did come from nothing but medical bandages. That's where it all came from. Where are the go ahead.
Anyway, a lot of times you'll find boxes of them. I mean, literally full boxes where they're just tossing them out on job sites.
Great.
And like I said, I've given quite a few to ladies that I know. So anyway, I'll let you go and have a good day.
We are stopped. God bless our republic. Death of the New World Order. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run. We're the march. Craig has been patient here. We're going to get out of his way. And Ed is taking over. Craig is right here with Forbidden Knowledge, and we'll be back at 8 o'clock for the evening intel report. God bless. Bye-bye.
Okay, now maybe I'm unmuted. This is Craig, Forbidden Knowledge. I'm making do an audio check, make sure I'm audible. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Craig, loud and clear. I'm the one that unmuted you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Well, I had it unmuted, but the difference was it didn't tell me muted or unmuted. I pushed the button, but
no, actually,
didn't
on
do
my
anything.
board, you were muted until I clicked the button.
Okay, did it show that I tried to mute and unmute?
No, I didn't even see any register that you had muted and unmuted.
Okay, a little problem there. Okay, well, anyway, we're on, so thanks about that. This is Craig, Forbidden Knowledge. We are live if you are listening on, let's see here, it is the 8th of July of 2020. In strange times we live in. I've got a few things that were in the news and some follow-ups that I'm going to try to cover today. Unless you want to change the topics for today, we're going to be talking about some recent Supreme Court rulings. We're going to be talking about the coronavirus. We're going to be talking about trade shows. And by the way, I don't have a show scheduled. I always announce where my shows are coming up. But no shows are scheduled. And let me talk about that first, because some shows are coming back. The next show that I was scheduled for was the Dragon Con in Atlanta, Georgia. It's the biggest science fiction show in the country. It's a little offbeat from what I normally do, but it worked well enough for me, and it's kind of like a vacation. It was fun. Well, I got a confidential email. Let me see if I can find it here. I thought I had them up, but it looks like I might not. Well, anyway, they have now canceled the show. I can announce that now because at the time, this was a couple days ago, but now they've announced it. I looked at their website and they do have it. Yep, Dragon Con has been like one of the biggest shows in the country. Has been shut off for this year. Canceled for the year. You'll have to go to their website if you have tickets or whatever, what you can do about those. Basically, you can roll them over to the next year. That's the general thing that people are talking about doing, just rolling them over. So anyway, that was my next show scheduled. That was Labor Day weekend. Now my next show schedule is in October, and that would be the Knob Creek Machine Gun Shoot, which was canceled some months ago, the one in the spring. I have not received an announcement about that yet, or if it's going to be canceled. Do not know about that yet. So my next show is until October. Good, I'd have some backup plans here. It's good being prepared. And so no shows. and here's something else that I came across in an email last week. Can we find it here? Oh, I'm having such a hard time finding. Here we go. Now this is from a Michigan gun show promoter. There's various gun shows that are coming back online now because most of what I did was gun shows. Michigan is starting to come back now as well. I know I've got news from West Virginia, California, various states that I've done shows in. I'm getting emails about how they're coming back. So if you start watching the listings, you might be able to find a gun show in your area that is now returning. But I found this email interesting from Michigan, which I've done a lot of shows in Michigan, about what their health and safety guidelines are going to be at the shows. You might be interested in this. Now, this may not seem too unusual to some of you because you may have already encountered some of these things in your daily encounters of what's going on in the world, but here's what they're saying at the gun shows in Michigan now is going to happen. Anyone entering the show will be required to wear a face covering. If you're not wearing a mask, one will be offered to you. Okay, so that's not too unusual. We've seen that sort of thing for quite a while now. Okay, now it says entering the show. It doesn't say when you're already in the show. So I don't know. I don't know how people are going to treat that, but it says anyone entering the show will be required to face mask. If you want to go by the wording. Next item. All attendees will have their temperature checked before entering. Now, bear in mind, this is a gun show. This is not like something that's like extremely, I don't know, important international plane flights, for instance, where they're checking your temperature. But now at this gun show, apparently they're going to be pointing that little gun at you to check your temperature. I presume that's how they're going to do it. So you're going to get your temperature checked when you go into a gun show in Michigan. Next one. All participants will be required to sign a waiver before entering. In our litigious society, I guess that could be expected. I don't know if that's going on other places as well. But in order to enter the gun show, you're going to have to sign a waiver, probably releasing them of liability in case you got the coronavirus. That's what that's all about. You know, all these things put in there, you might try to discourage people from coming to your show. Here's the next thing. And the name of the company, I will name them now because this is their announcement. Sports shows promotion will limit the number of attendees on the premises at one time. Okay, so they're going to do a count, everybody that comes in and everybody that goes out, they're going to stand there and do that. I kind of think not at gun shows, but maybe they will. Limit the number of attendees on the premises at one time. Next item. Aisles of the gun show will be one-way only. Now, we've seen this as well in grocery stores and such. We've seen the one-way aisles. How effective that is, I don't really know. How people don't go abide by them. It's just an aisle, and you go wherever you want, basically. Next item. Attendees must adhere to social distancing guidelines. And that's sort of a state-mandated thing in most places, or at least was. And let's see. Sports show promotion staff will be regularly cleaning high-contact surfaces. In addition, sanitizing stations will be available to all guests. Now, this is a gun show in Michigan. Gun shows. They when they're in full show mode during the winter months, they have a show almost every week, at least 3 times a month. Here in the summertime, they probably only have 2 a month. Sometimes they leave only 1 a month. But this is a big promoter in Michigan. Probably does a good 40-some shows a year. That's my guess. So they're going to go through all these. I found the strangest one to be having a file to sign a waiver to get into the show. You're going to make your show difficult to want to attend. Just a little heads up there. Me as a vendor, I don't like to see all these rules put in place either. There's going to be less attendees coming to the event, more than likely. Now, I have not talked to any of the other vendors how shows are doing now, the ones that have come back. I have not seen any, because I wouldn't trust what a gun show promoter is telling me. Oh, yeah, everything's great. They're really returning like crazy. You got to take that with a grain of salt because they're trying to get you to come back to the show. So I have not heard from other vendors. Those are the people I would trust, or people who attended the shows. If you attended a gun show here in the last month, you call in and tell us what you saw there. If you were normally doing that show anyway, or normally attending that show, and you know what it's normally like versus what it is now, I'd be glad to hear from you on the air. And I could also mention here, and this is relating into my next topic here. So Dragon Con is canceled. Most shows are canceled everywhere, but some things are coming back. And the ones that are coming back, they're putting in all these limitations, which may reduce the show. There's a place in Michigan where they had to show all the time it's presently called the Suburban Collection Show Place. It's in Novi, Michigan. It's the largest gun show in Michigan. Was the largest gun show in Michigan, at least the last 10 years or so, before they had it at the Silver Dome in Detroit area, Pontiac. So it was now, I should say, the largest, because right now that hall is, let's see if I can find that if I brought it up here. Yep, Army Corps scales back size of COVID-19 field hospital, Suburban Collection Show Place. Yeah, they converted into one of those not mobile, but field hospitals, like a supplemental hospital, if you will, specifically for the coronavirus. But I heard a story on NPR, National Propaganda Radio, and I was trying to look it up, but I really didn't have enough time before I got on the air. I only got on the computer about 15 minutes before the show, and I'm trying to look all this stuff up, and I couldn't find what I was looking for. So I don't have the exact numbers, but I remember hearing an NPR story about that place. They had they were scaled up to do. Let's see, this article does show the scale of the building. The building is huge. I don't know if I have the square footage here, but they were going to make it into an 1,100 bed hospital, essentially. Now this is one of those halls. You may have seen these. If you've ever been to a really big show, they'll have these dividing, folding walls that basically divide. I think this divides into 5 halls. And each hall is capable of having like an 800 table gun show, because that's about what it is in Michigan, 700, 800 tables for that show. So each of those 5 halls, I think it's 5, can hold about 700 or 800 8-foot tables. So get the idea of the size of the thing. I did a show where all 5 were in one. I did a show there once where all 5 bays were one big show. I think they had 66,000 people attending that weekend. So anyway, this is a big place. Turned into a 1,100 bed mobile. I keep saying mobile. It wasn't mobile. It's still a building. A field hospital, they call it. COVID-19 field hospital. Well, according to the report from National Propaganda News, they were telling people that they only had like 12 patients the whole time that place was open, at least at the time of that report. And they were going to start scaling it back. Now think about this. We went through all this nonsense over the last 4 or 5 months about the coronavirus and all the things that were changing our life because of this coronavirus. And yet they didn't even really utilize this giant place, which held that every year, every weekend, this place would have 4 or 5 shows every weekend. They rent these separate units out, these separate sections out, and about once every 2 or 3 months, about every 3 months, I think it was, maybe every 2 months, they would have a gun show there. Well, anyway, there's all kinds of shows, bird shows, anything you can think of in that building. But in the last several months, they had converted it back in April to a field hospital, COVID-19 field hospital, and it was a disaster. Some of the reasons cited, but based on memory of this program that I heard, it was because of lack of staffing. You're going to have 1,000 more beds. You're going to need, X number of doctors and nurses, and maybe they just didn't have them because people were But anyway, in the end, they only had about 12 patients the whole time up to that time. This story was from about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So the nonsense is amazing. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of these conspiracy theorists that say, it doesn't exist, or it's not even really a virus, or it's actually 5G, or whatever. You hear all kinds of crap out there. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying there's a lot of fear-mongering based upon it. From day one, we were fear-mongered to death. With less than 500 deaths in the U.S., all of a sudden we were shutting down our society by executive order and by not only by the states, but by the federal government. Donald Trump even got in the game finally. He was convinced because all the press was yelling at him. Follow our lead on the fear-mongering, please. So they attack him, and then he finally had to. Well, anyway, with less than 500 people now, dead with the coronavirus. I think that was the number. Maybe less than 500 that actually had the coronavirus. I don't know. They confirmed. Don't remember. But keeping in mind that at that point in time, we would have already had about 20,000 deaths due to the flu. So anybody who says this is not fear-mongering is just absolutely full of crap. And they were telling us it was a 4% kill rate. Well, that turned out to be false, too. We later learned that it was less than 1%. And if you doubt that, start looking it up. I don't have those articles in front of me now, but they've known this now for a while, that it's actually less than 1%, the actual death rate of people that are confirmed by the coronavirus. And they say it was actually probably a lot. It's hard to nail these numbers down because a lot of people may have the disease and don't even know it and don't get tested or don't get tested correctly. There's a lot of variables here. But right now, the scientists are pretty much thinking it's less than 1%. And then another thing the press is keeping away from us, and I've covered this before on this program, is we've never made a successful vaccine for a coronavirus before. Never. SARS in 2002, 18 years ago, still no vaccine, a safe or effective vaccine. MERS in 2012, 8 years ago, still no safe or effective vaccine. Those are both coronaviruses. There's 4 others that affect humans, and we've never made a successful vaccine for coronavirus before. Oh, but they're all over the news telling you every day, every single hour, you'll hear, oh, until we get a vaccine, or this is going to be like this until we get a vaccine, because they got this promise of this magical vaccine that's going to come your way. Yeah, we've talked about it before. So keep that in mind. My suggestion is to you is start leading your life as if you were living, as if you're already dead. Because you're not going to get that magical vaccine. It doesn't appear to be that way anyway. Now, maybe there will be. It's possible, but it sure doesn't seem likely if after 12 years and 8 years, respectively, for these coronaviruses they've been working on recently, there's never been an safe or effective vaccine. After 18 years of SARS, and this is essentially SARS-2, what we're dealing with here, this COVID-19, if there hasn't been one for SARS-1, why do you think there's going to be one for SARS-2 within 12 to 18 months that they're promising you, which should be within 12 months, supposedly. So be afraid, be very afraid, if they do come out with a vaccine and they start administering of all the testing, because it might be worse than the cure. It might be somebody's cure, as in people who want certain agendas to happen, but it might not be your cure. You get my drift? I hate to do any kind of conspiracy theory related stuff, but there is a obvious fear-mongering factor associated with this. My opinion is, okay, we have another virus in our lives that we will have to deal with, just like any other virus or any other cold virus, any other bacteria, any other form of Cryptosporidium, Giardia, whatever that man has always had to deal with our entire existence. We now have a new one. Live with it. You're going to have to. Or maybe get the virus, get the corny virus, and probably live. 99% chance, better than 99% chance you'll live. And will we have an immunity if we get the corny virus? Well, I had something in February before corny virus was supposedly here in the U.S., but it probably was already. I had something. Don't know what I had. There was no testing then. I had the flu. I got over it. I didn't die. I could have died. Any number of people die from the flu. 80,000 people roughly every year die of the flu. Depending the year, it fluctuates. 1.5 million people die every year of tuberculosis. Why haven't we shut down entire societies because of that? We did for the corny virus after just 500 deaths in the U.S. We shut it down. Catch my drift here. There's an obvious fear-mongering. And people have reached the point, and I wanted to look this up before the show. I just didn't have time to look all this up. I know there's a term for it. A fear-mongering fatigue. There's a psychological term for it, and I don't know what it is, where you've just been blasted with this fear-mongering so often, day after day, all the time, you start turning it off. And so at this point, that's starting to happen. People might be turning it off. People still seem to be wearing their masks everywhere. I still even see people in cars wearing their masks. Kind of ridiculous, I thought. You see people even in their cars wearing a mask. Nobody else in the car, just them in the car wearing their mask. Seemed kind of crazy, but okay, whatever. Those are the type of people that, when they learn about this vaccine that's never going to exist, might go into a panic. I don't know. You need to get over it. You're not going to be able to live your life like this the whole time, unless that's what they want you to do. Wearing a mask all the time. I'm getting to the point where I don't even want to go into stores anymore because the sign on front says you must wear a mask to enter. Now, I know I could still walk in and get my things without wearing a mask, and probably nobody will say anything to me, or somebody might sneer at me or something, but I could probably still go in and get my mask as a protest, get my items, whatever I'm in there to buy, as a protest. I'm sure I could. I have even done that occasionally. I have to go to the post office every day still to this day because of all the orders for gas masks, which you'll never use for the corny virus. So I still have to go to the post office every day, and sometimes I don't have my mask. Okay, so what? And I've never been said anything to, even though there's a sign at the post office. And they have to wear it, and people that have to work at these places, I feel sorry for them. They're having to wear the mask.
Well, Craig, think about this logically. Now, if everybody else is wearing a mask and sneering at you, then they're all protected, and you're protected too if you're the only person without a mask, aren't you? I mean,
and that's the same
as
as
protect them and protect you from spreading it. They're all wearing their masks. You're the person without the mask. they are perfectly safe. But in the same instance, you're perfectly safe too because they're all wearing their masks. I mean, going on their own logic, but they will sneer at you, and some people will attack you for not wearing your mask. We've seen videos of this on YouTube. You know, they'll come up and they'll avoid the social distancing thing, get right up in a person's space, start yelling at them, and okay, well, if they did have the coronavirus, and if it was such a big deal, well, you violated that space, and since you're worried about them breathing on you, boy, they sure are breathing on you now. You're right up in their face.
Yeah. And that's the same argument as the vaccines. If everybody has the vaccine, but why are you afraid of the vaccine? Because that guy who doesn't have the vaccine, he's the one that's not protected. You are, supposedly. That's the same argument, basically, as the mask thing that you just did, Ed. Yeah, and I would like to see, I haven't seen him yet. I saw a lady the other day she had a yellow outfit on, and she had a matching yellow mask. So apparently they're selling designer masks now. And I've seen all kinds of different designs and colors and everything. Some people are just saying, screw it, I got a bandana, I'll just put a bandana on my face. Look like an Old West outlaw. And then there's I want to see some protest masks. I want to see masks that have your face printed on them so it looks like you're not wearing a mask. I want to see those masks. I don't know if they exist yet. We need some of those. We need to see what other kind of masks. Maybe ones that have something nasty to say on the mask. Like, I don't want to wear this effing thing or something of that nature. I don't know. But we need to see some protest masks. And, of course, Donald Trump, he's pretty much against the masks anyway, always has been. And his get-togethers, his rallies, seem to be always criticized because hardly anybody's wearing a mask. And then they'll always point out how little people are wearing masks at the people who show up at state courthouses in protest of what's going on in various states, and a lot of them aren't wearing masks. And the press will immediately point that out. Hardly anybody's wearing a mask. Well, maybe there's a reason for that. So anyway, wear a mask if you want to. It doesn't bother me any, but don't make me have to wear a mask. Okay, so let me see what else. Anything else about the coronavirus? I'm about halfway through my show here. I'm getting sick of it. I'm to the point where I don't want to go anywhere. Don't want to go anywhere. I went everywhere I wanted during the pandemic. I guess we can still call it that. I don't know. As everybody probably knows, you hear about it every day. Now that even though they were supposedly starting to ease restrictions is coming back in a vengeance in a lot of places, and so this is going to go on forever, I suppose. The only thing this is really truly helping us with, in my opinion, is it doesn't give everybody the coronavirus all at once so that our hospitals aren't overwhelmed. But if you got the coronavirus, you probably don't need to go to the hospital anyway. Most of you will not. Probably. I don't have the numbers on this, but how many of you, when you get the flu, you actually go to the hospital? It's actually the people who have to do that are the ones that already have underlying health conditions. And that may only be 5% of the people who get the flu. I don't know those numbers. I just threw a number out there. I do not know if that's an accurate number. But how many of you actually go to the hospital when you get the flu? If it's just a regular old flu. And that's about what you'll feel when you get the coronavirus. You'll feel like the flu. Do you need to go to the hospital then because it's got that novel name on it? Probably not. You probably just can recover at home, unless you have some kind of other underlying health condition. So all these extra hospitals, like the Novi Suburban Showcase or whatever they call it, they changed the name every few years because it's an advertising thing. You know, they sell their name to some type of company, because I know before that it was called the Rock Financial Showplace. Well, anyway, and you see baseball stadiums doing this and football stadiums all over the country, selling their names of their location for money. But anyway, we haven't seen a huge hospital crisis because the numbers have been relatively low. As pandemics go, like say we were back 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, if we had the same situation today with the numbers we saw there, the percentage-wise, our hospitals would have been massively overwhelmed. And then you would have a reason for these supplemental hospitals in conventions converted from convention centers. But we never saw that. I've talked to people who work in hospitals. So yeah, well, some hospitals even go out of business. Some have very little business because they've geared up for the coronavirus and they're putting off all these other elective surgeries or things that can be put off. Some hospitals are really hurting. So no, the hospitals aren't overwhelmed. But if we didn't have these measures, I think we didn't have these wet measures, our hospitals might be overwhelmed. And that's probably the only thing this is helping us with. But since the coronavirus is here to stay, let's everybody get it. I'm not saying hold smallpox parties like they might have done when I was a kid, where parents gather together, somebody down the block, Jimmy's got the smallpox or the measles or the mumps or something. Let's everybody go there. We're going to have a party. So our kids get the smallpox or the measles or mumps and gets it over with, because then you develop an immunity after you get through with it, and hardly anybody dies. Same thing here. The immunity part, the scientists still seem to be arguing about. To be honest with you, what they're telling us in the press anyway, I have not investigated this greatly, but what the press seems to be telling us is they don't know whether you have now an immunity to the getting the coronavirus again. So I don't know the answer to that. I have not investigated that further, because I come up with things like this. Let me see here. This here. Okay, that's Dragon Con. Okay, here's an announcement, and I'm going to put this in quotes. Quote, WHO, that would be the World Health Organization, WHO now says there is no evidence of asymptomatic coronavirus transmission, no need for restrictions if you're not sick, end of quote. Okay, now, the reason I put that in quotes, because number one, I haven't fully checked it out. I looked at their link for this article. It was sent to me by email. And number one, it came from Natural News. That's a huge red flag there. Number two, when I click their link, it clicks me back to a Twitter feed. So I didn't have time to fully check this out. I would suggest, if you're believing something like this, then you need to go to the World Health Organization website and find where they said it. That's what I was hoping for. If that was coming from the World